Wealthy investors buying their way to the front of the queue for US presidential announcements. Is that even legal? Well, that's the question at the centre of a lawsuit by a news organisation and a press freedom non-profit against Donald Trump and White House officials over a news service on social media platform Truth Social. The service, which costs up to $100,000 per month, gives access to high-profile posts, including Trump's own, before regular users see them. And you've guessed it, there has been a lot of backlash. Critics argue that because the US president often uses the platform to make official announcements, the arrangement is basically charging for early access to government information.
Trump's statements on Truth Social are official government record. They're subject to a law called the Presidential Records Act. They're acts of government.
That's Seth Stern from the Freedom of the Press Foundation. They're the ones suing Donald Trump, together with the investigative news site, The Intercept. He says if Trump's posts are official government communications, they shouldn't be treated like a premium product. But has this ever happened before? Katie Fallow of the Knight First Amendment Institute is a lawyer with expertise in free speech, press freedom, and digital platforms. She says courts have already addressed similar questions.
The courts have held that when a public official, such as the president, is using a privately run social media account to make official pronouncements and that the public official is authorized to speak on behalf of the government, which of course President Trump is, that those communications are official government communications. They're not private communications.
So even though anyone can access the posts, it's about whether some people should get government information first, simply because they're paying for it.
I think here there is no compelling government interest in saying certain people have faster access to critical government information than other people, and the only difference is whether you're willing to pay money. I mean, this is unprecedented.
Donald Trump is the largest shareholder in Trump Media. Now, it's been suffering from some financial struggles, and the company says subscribers receive information only slightly faster than everyone else. It calls that information market moving. Experts say a small head start could be financially profitable for investors. Trump has used Truth Social to announce major decisions, including tariffs and developments in the Middle East.
We've all seen how much Trump's announcements, official announcements about tariffs, about the war in Iran, about, any number of things affects the market in these wild swings. And I think that just as conditioning early access to his posts would distort the marketplace of ideas from a free speech perspective, it threatens to, distort the market itself.
For critics, the concern is straightforward. If information from the president can move markets, then even a brief timing advantage could create winners and losers before the wider public has access. So the issue isn't only what buyers might gain, it's also who receives the money for early access.
And it's essentially a government official getting money that's going to go to him through his private company for fast access to what we all know are market-moving pronouncements. I mean, that's why people would be willing to pay $100,000. And, like so many things that President Trump does, it's so unprecedented. It frankly seems quite corrupt.
No president has ever had the nerve to attempt to charge for access to his official statements for the benefit of a private business he controls.
For Katie Fallow, this is fundamentally about free speech, guaranteed by the First Amendment to the US Constitution.
I think it is certainly a free speech issue in the sense of the public's right of access on equal terms and non-discriminatory terms to critical government information. So there are several ways to approach that from a First Amendment free speech position, including, again, if the government makes information available, it has to have a reason for saying, well, you're allowed to get it in one way or you're not allowed to get it. And here, there is no legitimate government interest. The only interest here is President Trump's private financial interests.
A spokesperson for Trump Media told US broadcaster CBS News that information from President Trump is disseminated by countless platforms and news outlets, many of which offer subscription APIs. One of those channels is Truth Social, which was founded as an uncancelable haven for free speech after the president was unjustly deplatformed. Now, left-wing activists are trying to wrongfully weaponize the courts to censor him again and harm our shareholders. Now, what he referred to there was when tech companies banned Donald Trump from social media in the wake of the US Capitol riots in 2021. They said he violated their policies against inciting violence and posed a severe risk to public safety over his posts. Now, back to where we are now. The plaintiffs argue the case also has implications for journalism. Their concern is that independent media could be priced out of direct access to presidential information.
In fact, that is the whole marketing pitch behind this early access endeavor, that Truth Social posts move markets, and none moves markets more than Trump's posts. So to give non-paying people, particularly journalists, access on a tier below those who are willing to pay up, that's absurd, and that's clearly unconstitutional. Imagine if the White House Communications Office made people pay to access press releases or to get press releases by email. You can't do that. These are public statements. They're not a business.
But what about those who support Trump Media's move? They argue the service doesn't deny access altogether, but critics say that creating different levels of access is itself the problem.
When you look at it from a First Amendment standpoint, a free speech standpoint, and again, this central principle of the people having a right of access to what to information about what their government is doing. So again, it's been very clear that even if there's just a burden on access to speech, and even if it's a relatively small burden, I mean, there were cases in Trump's first term where he had blocked people from his @RealDonaldTrump Twitter account. And the effect of the blocking, the individuals who were blocked, they could have opened another account. They could have just seen it, reported in the news, or they had other ways to access it. But there, the court said, but they are still being burdened. There's an additional hurdle, or there's additional obstacle for their right of access, and the government needs to justify it.
Critics worry that if courts allow this arrangement to stand, future presidents could go much further, creating new tiers of access to government information for those willing to pay.
If this principle is allowed to stand, that government officials are essentially allowed to auction off, early access to their decisions or their pronouncements, that you could see a level of corruption that's, unheard of.
Despite the novelty of the case, its supporters believe they have strong legal arguments.
At the heart of this arrangement just seems very corrupt and anti-American in terms of being required to pay for access for government information.
Now it's up to the courts to decide whether this is simply a subscription service or whether some government information is too important to be sold to the highest bidder. I'm Pablo Foley Elias in Berlin. A big thanks to the whole team: David Levitz, Paul Hurst, Ricardo Grijalva, Stephen Herbig, Isabella Nadobny, and Philip Cheka. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.